When it comes to compact luxury crossovers, Cadillac was pretty late to the party when they introduced the XT4 back in 2018. I was actually at that media launch back in Seattle, Washington at the time, and Cadillac really had a lot of catching up to do with this small crossover. Now, as you can see, this week, the company has loaned me their latest version of the XT4. This is the 2023 XT4 Premium Luxury with the Onyx package, which means it has black wheels and black accents. And just like when the car was last introduced, you still have just one engine choice, a 2-liter turbo 4 underneath, built off of the same platform that also underpins the Buick Envision. This car starts at around $37,000. So if you guys are looking for an entry-level compact luxury SUV and you just happen to want a Cadillac, how does the latest 2023 XT4 stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the exterior styling updates for 2023, let's go ahead and talk about what's underneath the hood of the XT4. This is where Cadillac has made things pretty simple because some competitors offer a choice of different engines. Cadillac only offers just one. Now, underneath this hood, you're going to find a variant of the corporate GM 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder with cylinder deactivation. This engine was all new back in 2018. Now you find it in several other GM products. It makes 235 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through a 9-speed automatic transmission, and you can take your pick between either front-wheel drive or for about $3,000 more, Cadillac will sell you an all-wheel drive version. Fuel economy sits at 22 in the city and 29 on the highway. Premium is going to be recommended for this engine, but you can run it on regular. It'll just kind of reduce the power slightly. Surprisingly, the XT4 can tow a maximum of 3,500 pounds if you guys go for the tow package. And Cadillac says you should get to 60 in the mid 7-second range. I've never 0 to 60 tested this car, but we'll be doing that later on during the driving scene. Curb weight, because this is a slightly heavier vehicle or bigger vehicle than its competitors, comes in at just shy of 3,900 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up this hood and talk about the styling. Now, this car is due for a pretty significant refresh. Surprisingly, Cadillac hasn't done that yet. It's probably not going to come until sometime next year, but you can see it wears their corporate design face here, their art and science edgy look with the Cadillac crest grille. You can see this one here has an Onyx package for $2,800, which blacks out the grille, which I really like. It's got the new Cadillac logo there. Of course, this color is called Wave Metallic. It looks good on this car, especially when you see it with the kind of blacked out headlights. You can see it's got the full-length LED daytime running light with an LED turn signal, LED low and high beams. There are some areas here where this looks like a vent, but that's actually fake. You can see the front has a couple of functional vents. Surprised this is not like a piano black plastic accented trim as opposed to the unpainted plastic that would match the grille a little bit better. There's some integrated parking sensors in the front, no fog lights on this car, but overall you can see, I think it's still a good looking vehicle. When this car first came out in 2018, I was impressed with the styling. It definitely has some style to it, along with that kind of boxier design language that a lot of people tend to like. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see this is a bigger vehicle than most of its competitors. It's priced like a Lexus UX or an Audi Q3 or a Mercedes GLA or BMW X1, but it's sized more like an X3 at 181 inches long. It is about 5 to 8 inches longer than its competitors, and its wheelbase is 109 inches long. Again, on the longer end, very Cadillac to kind of give you that tweener for a better or less expensive price. Now, the Onyx Edition, like my tester, includes these black painted 20-inch wheels. You can see they're a good looking wheel. If you guys go for the sport trim, you'll actually get a red painted caliper. This is a premium luxury, so it's just a unpainted caliper. You have 245 45 R20 tires. These wheels look good, especially with the bodywork, but they will degrade the ride quality slightly, so that's something to keep in mind. This vehicle is built off of the E2XX platform, so it's not technically an Equinox, but it shares a platform with the Chevy Malibu and the Buick Envision, which is technically the newer platform. Now, I'm surprised with the Onyx Edition, they didn't actually black out the roof rails or the side trim over here, the window trim and the door handles. These actually light up at night. They're traditional looking door handles. You can see for $1,500, my tester also includes a panoramic sunroof. That is a pretty pricey upcharge that comes standard on some competitors, so that's something to keep in mind. The rear, you can see the design looks very Saab-like. It's an interesting look. You can also get a different color taillights. These are the red color. There also is like a clear lens reverse or LED taillight design. You can see it's a full LED. It's got turn signals built into the actual LEDs, and then it's got reverse lights down there. There's an XT4 all-wheel drive badge here. Then this badge right here, they started adding that a couple years ago. 350T stands for the torque in Newton meters, which I think means absolutely nothing here in the US. So I wish they would just get rid of that silly badging. It doesn't mean anything. Down here you can see you've got dual integrated rectangular exhaust tips along with some silver painted trim to again give it more of a rugged crossover look to it. Now looking at the trunk, you can see power liftgates included on this trim. And the XT4, for how big it is on the outside, the cargo area is on the smaller end. You get around 22.5 cubic feet of space. With the seats up, you can see this cargo cover, if you remove it, can add a little bit more stackable space up at top. You can see underneath here, no spare tire, it looks like. Instead, you have a decent storage well. There's a fix-a-flat kit. And if you fold down the rear seats, which you cannot do from the back here, it'll expand it out to around 48 cubic feet of space, which is again 5 to 10 cubic feet less than what you're going to find from some competitors. So now let's move on to the interior of this 2023 Cadillac XT4. As you guys heard, the exterior I think is a good looking car, but the inside I don't quite think matches the exterior's design. But let's first talk about the key fob. You can see this is the current Cadillac key. It's a nice feeling key. It does have your usual buttons, lock, unlock. It's got remote start. You can also open up the hatch in addition to the panic. I don't have access to the Cadillac app, so I can't see if you have smartphone access, but I imagine if you guys own this car, you do. Now, approaching the door handle, you can see this lights up, like I said. It's a traditional door handle, so just pull it like every other car, and then you can see my tester's Wave exterior, this blue, is complemented by this kind of jet black interior with the contrasting white stitching. These are the seats that you get with the premium luxury, which are the upgraded leather. These seats are also heated and ventilated, and they also come with a massage function. The massage function, however, only offers one type of massage called Wave and 3 different intensities. It's not that great. It literally just inflates the bolsters back and forth. Thankfully, at least the heated and cooled seats with the 2-person memory, and they adjust in like 12 different ways, is a nice touch. You can see the door panel here has some genuine leather with real stitching along the upper portion. You can see this door handle here feels like it's actually metal. The window controls, they feel okay. It's 1 touch up, down for the front, 1 touch down for the rear. Again, material quality is perfectly acceptable. There's some aluminum trim here, and then down here you can see it's a hard touch plastic material. Your power liftgate controls over there, but overall it makes a decent first impression. You have around 6.7 inches of ground clearance, so getting in the XT4 is a pretty easy proposition. Now, once you get in and shut the door doesn't have the most solid sounding thunk. It sounds a little bit tinny, actually. And then looking at the rest of this cabin, you can see the technology in this car is definitely starting to look a little bit dated. I also don't particularly love the design of the dashboard. It has kind of that weirdo, interesting shapes that GM has been known for in the past. But getting inside, the start-stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. And you can hear the engine has a little bit of a coarse graininess to it when it starts up. It also has that older GM bong where I've heard a newer chime in some of their newest products. And then you can see here, you have an 8-inch Cadillac user interface here with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. It's definitely looking a little bit small. And then you have a center display here, which is digital, but then to the left of it, you have a traditional analog tach and speedometer. Now, if you prefer that look, that does look, again, more traditional, but everybody's kind of going with larger 10+ inch screens here with a fully digital 12-inch display here. So that's definitely starting to look a little bit dated, especially when you look at its competitors. Now, looking at the rest of the dash, you can see material quality is fine. You can see this area here has some stitching or has some soft touch materials with some faux stitching. Same thing with this area here, it's soft touch. But then I look a little bit closer and I start to see a little bit of fitment issues. You can see right there, there's an interesting gap that's pretty noticeable. It's not the most consistent gap. You can see that speaker cover there kind of is raised up in certain portions. This heads-up display has this really cheap piece of plastic that, again, you can see how it doesn't line up properly with the dash. Same thing over here along this portion of the driver's side dash. You can see there's a gap there where it doesn't line up properly. I do like the metal trim that you see splashed throughout. But overall, I think I expected better build quality, especially considering this car's been out for a few years and it's a Cadillac product. Now, the steering wheel you can see is a 3-spoke design. It's got power tilt and telescoping, which is kind of rare in this segment, which is nice. That's part of, I think, a technology package or an upgrade package. Paddles on the wheel, the horn. It sounds good. It doesn't sound puny like I've heard in some other competitors. And then you also have a heated steering wheel button on the wheel. You have buttons here to control the display over there where you can kind of customize that, change the way it looks and whatnot. The steering wheel itself offers a good amount of adjustability. so I can get comfortable in this car relatively easy. I feel like it's changed. They extended out the reach of the telescoping wheel, because I remember when I first got in this car, it wasn't the most comfortable driving position for me personally. Now over here you can see, I've shown you guys this infotainment system before. There's the Apple CarPlay. It looks fine. It just looks a little bit small. Push the home button there. That takes you back to the Cadillac display. It does have embedded GPS, which the GPS itself has definitely gotten quicker. It's pretty snappy and responsive. When I first tested this, I remember it was a little bit slow, so they've kind of updated that over the years. It's just a small display. We've seen definitely much larger displays in other Cadillac products. You've got dual zone climate control here, heated and cooled seats, which is definitely nice. You have automatic parallel parking, lane departure alert. That would be for your adaptive damper switch, which my tester is missing. And then down here you can see the center console area has some leather faux stitching lined along with it. You have, open that up, you can see there's a storage area with 2 USB charging ports. And then this shifter here controls the 9-speed auto. Push this little trigger, push it forward to go to reverse. You can see there's your full 360 camera, and the graphics look okay. It's nothing super special, but you can see it gives you a front view, it gives you a side curb view, which is nice to keep you from curbing those 20-inch wheels. And then if you want to go into park, you push P, kick it back to go to drive. And then there's also a manual mode in the shifter. You have a volume knob over here along with a tuning button, and then there's this controller wheel. If you don't want to use the touchscreen, you can use this little wheel, but most of you are probably going to end up using the touchscreen. Your drive mode selector is over here. You can see there's 4 modes. There's touring, all-wheel drive, sport, and then off-road. This vehicle will actually default to 2-wheel drive if you have it in touring. You have to actually push the button here to go to all-wheel drive to give you all-wheel drive, where it locks it in that. It's locked in 2-wheel drive when it's just in touring mode, so that's something to keep in mind. For those of you who live in snowy climates, you need to actually manually switch that via the drive mode there, and I think that's kind of a mistake. There should be an automatic setting. Over here you can see padded center console area, decent amount of storage in there. That's where your wireless phone charging pad is. It's just not quite the widest console. The seats, I did mention earlier, these are like a 12-way adjustable seat, massaging. They're pretty comfortable, but the massage, I think, is a little rudimentary. Over here in the glove box, you can see it's damped, it's lined with felt. It's a pretty big style bin. My tester also has the digital camera review mirror, which you can also adjust and turn off if you'd like. And then above me here, for $1,500, it has this massive panoramic sunroof, which, again, it comes with a retractable shade. It also opens up, which is nice to let in the fresh air. You can also just kind of crack it, or you can open it up completely over the 2 front seats. It doesn't actually open over the rear, but you can extend it and open it up pretty largely, to be honest. That's actually really nice. So for $1,500, it's definitely a nice addition to get the pano sunroof. But again, lots of options in this car, some dated looking tech, a decent view out of the vehicle, and then it's kind of subpar build quality in my particular tester, kind of sours the interior, but overall it does feel a little bit more spacious than some of its competitors. Looking at the back seat of the XT4, this is where the Cadillac again has an advantage over some competitors because of its larger size. You do have more rear seat legroom, around 39.5 is what Cadillac claims. Material quality back here also is pretty similar to the front, where it's soft touch pretty much in the upper portions, which is nice. You do have a 13-speaker Bose stereo, which sounds pretty decent. And then these seats, you can see they don't actually recline, but they do fold down to expand the cargo area. But getting back here, you can see at 5'7", it's a really easy step-in height, actually, with around 7 inches of ground clearance. And shutting the door, you can see I have plenty of headroom. The seats themselves, they actually sit up a little bit higher, so my feet kind of can stretch out pretty easily. So this is a really good selling feature with the XT4. You have rear seat air vents, you have heated rear seats, 2 USB-C charging ports, you have 2 storage pockets, and then you can see here it has an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. The rear, or the pano sunroof, lets in a lot of light back here. So again, if you need an actual bigger back seat in this segment, the XT4 definitely offers one of the largest, but just keep in mind that this interior build quality isn't the best, but overall it does have that larger back seat for those of you who need it. So it's been about 4 years since I've been behind the wheel of the smallest Cadillac crossover, the XT4. I was actually out in Seattle, Washington when I first drove this vehicle, and that was a long time ago. And it's really surprising because GM or Cadillac hasn't really made any updates to this car other than just making this new Onyx black badge package, or the black wheel package, available for a dealer accessory for like $2,800. But we're driving the premium luxury. It still has the same 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder connected to a 9-speed automatic. This one here has their all-wheel drive system for an additional $3,000. I've never actually 0 to 60 tested this vehicle, so let's go ahead and see what we can get. I'll put it in sport mode, which automatically puts it in all-wheel drive. It locks it in that. I turned out the traction control. We'll brake torque it. 0 to 60 in 7.38 seconds. That is a perfectly respectable time, and it's pretty close to what I was thinking when I first drove this car all those years ago. I think I said it was around the 7-second range. It's not the quickest compact luxury crossover in the segment. There are quicker entries that'll do it in about a second faster, and then there's also the AMG or the performance versions that'll do it even quicker than this, like 2 seconds faster. So I'm surprised Cadillac still hasn't introduced something with more power, but in this segment, you're not really looking for the quickest 0 to 60 time, so that's kind of understandable that Cadillac doesn't need to do it. But other than that, it's a nice it's a nice accelerating vehicle still. It should have enough power for most people to get to where they're going. But let's go ahead and try it again here. Brake torque it. The 9-speed will shift at around 5,800 RPM. Really closely spaced gear ratio, 7.7 seconds there. So this one's going slightly uphill. The first run was going mostly level surface. So 7.4 seconds is fine. Again, you don't buy this car for 0 to 60 performance. What I do notice about this vehicle that's somewhat disappointing is how rough and just unrefined the 4-cylinder feels and sounds. This was a new engine when it first came out back in 2019. The 9-speed auto also shifts relatively smoothly. It's just not the quickest shifting transmission. It's got these paddles on the wheel, but every time you just go near the throttle, the engine just has a raspy, kind of very unluxury car-like feel. It's befitting more in like a Chevrolet Equinox or Malibu. I definitely think that there are better entries that have more refined engines. The ride quality also with these 20-inch wheels does tend to crash over bumps more. This is not the smoothest or best riding crossover in the business, especially considering the price of this car. The one thing that Cadillac does have, however, is it has a really nice looking exterior, especially in this wave blue metallic. It looks good. The massaging seats, very class exclusive, although the massage function is very rudimentary. It has one motion called wave, and it just kind of inflates and deflates the bolsters. Remember, this car is riding on the E2XX platform. That's the same one that underpins the Buick Envision. The two vehicles are closely related. And I like the Buick Envision. I just think that it's also a little overpriced, just like this car. I think it's a little bit too expensive considering where this vehicle comes from, its roots. Put my foot down there. You can feel the all-wheel drive is trying to send power back side to side a little bit. But again, it's just perfectly fine. But why is Cadillac not offering an electrified option? Like, there should be a hybrid version. They could easily stuff their 2.7-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, although that engine isn't the most refined either. It's a little truck-like as well. But let's go ahead and switch the drive mode here to Touring. When I go into Touring, it actually will put the all-wheel drive system into two-wheel drive. It actually says in the instrument panel two-wheel drive. There's another mode. If I push this again, it'll go to just all-wheel drive lock. But this is the mode where you might get a little bit of wheel spin, especially if you turn off the traction control. So let's see if I can actually do that here. Oh, yep, it actually spins out the front tires. It's kind of funny, actually. I mean, it's very predictable. It's just kind of embarrassing. So most of you probably won't ever do that, but I just wanted to show you guys for demonstration purposes if it actually will do that. But as I go down the road here, the visibility in the XT4 is better when you guys go for some of the tech packages. Like this one here has the digital camera rearview mirror. Without it, the view out of the back is okay. It's a little bit compromised from the slope. These pillars here are a little bit thick. The hood is bulging, which isn't necessary because this is a 4-cylinder turbo engine. The side mirrors, however, are a good size. The driver assistance package in this car, Adaptive Cruise, is still a $1,000 upcharge. That's really insulting considering this is a Cadillac. It should come standard. I complained about that in 2018. It's still the case today where you still have to pay a little bit extra for some of the driver assistance stuff. Now, emergency braking is standard. It's got lane keep assist, that's standard. But if you want Adaptive Cruise, it is optional. And then Cadillac doesn't offer their Super Cruise on this car, which again, should be included, especially for this price. It's a selling feature. It's the fact that this is a Cadillac. It should have that upscale touch to kind of differentiate it from its more corporate GMC and Chevrolet and Buick cousins. But again, Cadillac doesn't offer that still. So this car is in desperate need of a refresh, and it shows. Thankfully, at least, it is still comfortable. The seats, I think, are still comfortable. Right now on this smooth pavement, the ride feels okay, but you hit a few bumps and it crashes. The engine just needs more refinement. It needs just more NVH, considering this where this comes from. And then I look at the screens here, the 8-inch touchscreen here, and then the the center digital display, but the traditional analog tach and speedometer looks dated. Everything else is going to go with a fully digital display. So for the price point, again, I'm being a little more harsh because this car is almost $60,000, and there's a lot of options out there for $60,000 nearly. Now, in terms of fuel economy, this 2-liter turbo is rated at 22.29. In my week's worth of testing, I've been averaging around 23.5 mpg, which is fine. It's not great. It's recommended to run on premium. You should be able to run it on regular. It'll reduce the power a little bit. And then the highway, it says the best I got was around 31.5. So pretty decent highway MPG, but again, it could be better if this is a hybrid. You can get like something like the Lexus NX 350h, which will do, 36 MPG, close to 40 for those of you who have even a lighter foot. And acceleration is pretty similar to this car, and this has a turbo 4, a 2-liter turbo 4. So that's something to just keep in mind. But overall, the XT4, if you don't look at the competition, is a perfectly competent car, but then when you look at the price tag and what you could also buy in this same category, it really kind of makes the XT4 a hard sell. So Cadillac, they've got some work to do in making this car a little bit more appealing. So after spending a week driving the 2023 Cadillac XT4, this vehicle, as I mentioned earlier, was really late to the compact luxury SUV party, and it's still a tweener vehicle. It's about the size of a compact car like an X3, but priced more like a BMW X1. And just like when I first drove this car in Seattle, the XT4 seems like an appealing vehicle on the paper, especially when you look at the exterior design. It is a very attractive looking car on the outside, especially with this new Onyx package that gives you the black wheels, although they could have completed the blacked out look with black side mirror trim, or black window trim, black roof rails. I think that would have taken this look up to the next level. The 2-liter turbo engine has enough power for most people. 0 to 60 in 7.4 seconds is respectable, but I would like to see an electrified option. I'd like to see a more powerful engine option again to compete better with most competitors. I think people in this segment, they just like choices. I mean, just look at cars like the Lexus NX. The redesigned version has 4 different powertrain options, which again is going to appeal to several different buyers. Now, in terms of the engine's refinement, I think Cadillac needs to work on that. It's a little bit too rough sounding for something that wears a Cadillac logo. The ride quality on the 20s also isn't the most comfortable, so I would recommend going for the 18s, getting the adaptive dampers. That should quiet the ride quality down a little bit. Thankfully, the XT4 does have a little bit more interior space than its competitors, but the trunk capacity is on the smaller side, so that's something to keep in mind. And really, my biggest issue with the XT4 is the pricing, because it's deceiving. This car starts at $37,500 for the base premium version with 2-wheel drive, with front-wheel drive. Add $3,000 if you guys want all-wheel drive. So $40,000, not too bad. The premium luxury tacks on a couple of other extras like the nicer leather. You can also get a couple of option packages on it, but this starts at around $42,000, which is again very reasonably priced. But here's where things start to go wrong with the XT4. This car here has about $12,000 in options on it, and it stickers for a little over $56,000. $56,000 is basically putting us into the compact luxury territory, and there's a lot of choices out there for nearly $60,000. I mean, the Onyx Edition package is $3,000 almost. It's got a technology package for $1,500. The 8-inch touchscreen with Bose stereo is another $1,500. The driver assistance is $1,000. This color is $600. There's too many options here. Even the seats are like an extra $1,500 with the massage function. There's too many options here that's ballooning the price up to basically German car levels. And I don't think Cadillac has the cachet to do that. I really think that this car should have been better if they're going to charge more money. Personally, I think this car here fully loaded should be around $48,000. It's about $10,000, in my opinion, too expensive. And there was a time where Cadillac was discounting these cars. However, with the chip shortage and everything being super expensive, people are now paying basically sticker on these, which I think is grossly overpriced. So that's something to keep in mind. I am looking forward to Cadillac introducing a fully refreshed version of this car. It really needs a huge upgrade in the tech department and the NVH, but really, for me personally, for $56,000, I think that there are several better choices. So if you're looking at this car, go easy on the options, because at around the low to mid $40,000 range, it is a good deal, but at this price level, there are so many better competition out there, especially when you're paying that kind of money. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2023 Cadillac XT4 Premium Luxury. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.